We make the music because we have to. And understanding that the songs might not find people right now, but they will find them eventually. And the lessons will find people eventually. We can always be discovered, but it's just a matter of, are we okay with who's discovering us? And I want people who need healing to discover my music. I don't care when they do, just find it.
You're listening to Artistry with Heart, a musician's wellness podcast. I'm Stephanie Lynn Bernards. On today's episode, we're joined by Nashville-based artist, music therapist, and activist Kyshona Armstrong, whose powerful work bridges music, healing, and social impact. Kyshona's live performances are defined by empowerment, resilience, and hope, leaving audiences inspired and moved. Beyond the music, her work prompts listeners to ask, what can I do? As her songs urge us not only to hear the music, but to truly listen to the stories, the struggles, and the call for positive change carried in every lyric. Kyshona earned a spot on American Songwriters' Top 25 Songs of 2022 with her original piece, Nighttime Animal, and her involvement in events like the 2023 Fulbright Scholars Keynote and the PBS show Ear to the Common Ground underscores her dedication to meaningful social work. Kyshona's artistry is a bridge between past, present, and future, inviting everyone into a journey of self-exploration, healing, and growth. Her work invites us not only to witness her story, but to listen more deeply to our own. Kyshona, I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. And I was totally rocking out to your album the other day, Legacy, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, my little 10-month son and I were just kind of like dancing around the room to just the bangers. And they're just so inspiring. And there's so much soul and depth in your writing and in your voice. So I gave a thumbnail sketch of you in the intro here, but I would love to pull the curtain back a little bit and hear about parts that maybe we wouldn't know about your journey, the behind the scenes that got you to where you are today.
Yeah. I mean, I'm what some would call a late bloomer. As a songwriter, as an artist, I went to school to study to be a music therapist. And so that's what I did for about 15, 17 years full time. And the only songwriting I had done was on piano. Like, I'm a classically trained pianist and oboist. And that was my world, was like classical music, music therapy. So the thought of ever standing on stages now, singing songs that I wrote, I didn't think that was something I would ever do. But it's because of that work as a music therapist, that's how I became the songwriter and artist that I am. My patients were the ones who taught me how to write. And without being the music therapist that I was, there's no way I would be the artist I was. And there's no way I could be the music therapist I am without having my artist skills now, right? As an artist, you do have to adapt quickly between environments all the time. And I see the correlation between that and what it was like walking into treatment rooms. If anything, what I'm enjoying now about this season, I started when I was 22 as a full-time music therapist, and now I'm 45, and which is hard to hear myself say. But all of that experience, and all the different lives that I've lived that I didn't expect to live. I thought I would just be in a clinical setting for the rest of my life. Happy to retire that way. Like, I'm now in this shift where I'm about to enter into a new season of life, and I'm really interested in what that's going to look like. How am I going to take both the phase of my life that I was a full-time music therapist, and then this phase of my life where I was a full-time touring artist, and now what is that going to look like, combining all the things all together?
Yeah. So you're a classically trained pianist primarily, and then you got your degree in music therapy. Is that right?
Yeah. Music therapy and oboe. So oboe is what I majored in. Yeah. That and music therapy.
Okay. Wow. So how long were you a music therapist for then?
I'm still a music therapist now. Still licensed, but I was only doing that work for 15 years. And then I was contracting part-time while dipping my toe into the touring world. Whenever I was home, I would still go do groups in nursing homes or with children. But I took a break for maybe 7 years after I moved to Nashville. And it's been since 2020 that I've jumped fully back into music therapy, just with an organization that I started called Your Song. And I focus now on therapeutic songwriting as my tool for music therapy.
I want to stay with the music therapy for just a moment here. You said that there were a lot of basically connections that you see between the music that you share when you're on stage, when you're touring, and what happens inside the medical offices and with all of
Mm-hmm.
these patients, right? So I am curious if you can explain what those connections are to those of us that maybe wouldn't know.
For me, the thing that really encouraged me to keep writing and performing was the fact that songwriting for me was the outlet to process what I was witnessing in the treatment institutions and in the treatment facilities. What I was witnessing was very hard stuff. And so I would have to write about it.
What were you
And
witnessing?
oh gosh, witnessing people having their first ever psychotic breaks, witnessing children being saved from trafficking experiences from by their parents. I was witnessing families dealing with elders who had disappeared into dementia. Also people who were getting wound care after a severe or a really serious surgery, people that had had a neurological injury and might have forgotten how to walk, lost the ability to walk or talk, and witnessing how music helped them find their voice and help them find their literal footing and learn how to find their gait and everything through using music as that tool. Man, especially when I was dealing with early childhood development, watching families really struggle with, something is different with my child. And I know that we can find my kid in here somehow, and being able to be a part of that team with the speech therapist, with the physical therapist to help bring the child out. I love working with all different populations of people. I think that keeps me on my toes. I think what kept me wanting to write and tour, especially the touring part, was that as I was sharing songs that were grounded in something that I had experienced in the treatment rooms, and I'm telling a story very vaguely about what hardships I'm witnessing people go through, the amount of audience members that will come up to me later to say, me too. Or I've never heard anybody say it like that. I've been struggling with this, but I just didn't have the words for it. And I then was like, oh yeah, because the only difference between you sitting here in the audience versus the person sitting in the hospital room or that person sitting in the jail cell even is that you had a net to catch you. You had a community around you. You had resources where this person did not. So a lot of times it's the fact that it's basically who we have around us, and what tools we've been equipped with on how we can get through traumatic experiences. And being able to be the bridge between the people on the outside versus the people on the inside is what has motivated me to stay in this artist role of being that bridge. And actually now I find that the work I do on stage is more therapeutic. Even I'm inviting the audiences to speak to me, to say out loud their fears, to say out loud the traumas that were handed down to them that they're working through that aren't even theirs. That's like a family trait that we need to let go of.
Wow. Yeah. There really isn't much that separates us from the people that are in the hospital rooms or the jail cell, as you said. And it is that network that we have. And that's all kind of just like a gift that's been given to us. And it's awesome that you have been able to provide a sort of net for the folks that wouldn't otherwise have it. And it sounds like you also worked with folks in jail cells and in like, what was that? Just take us a little bit through that and then we'll get on with you. But yeah, tell us a little bit more about the types of folks you've worked with.
When I was working at a hospital in Atlanta, there was a unit, they call it the forensics unit. And this is a unit of people who are serving their sentences, but they've been diagnosed with a mental disorder or going through a psychotic episode or in the midst of a psychotic break. So a lot of times my clients that I would go to, I would be working with youth on the adolescent unit, and then I would get my little golf cart and go next door to the forensics unit and write songs with the inmates there. And then when I moved here to Nashville, I was working with an organization called Send Musicians to Prison. And not only do they go into the prisons around the country and perform, like do concerts for the inmates, they also we started doing songwriting groups here in Nashville with the women's block. So writing with women who are experiencing incarceration and helping them find their voice, helping them find their story. The thing that kept coming up in all of these groups, especially with the women that we were writing songs with, was many of them were there because they were running either from an abusive situation or trying to feed their kids, or they had been trafficked in some way. So it's that thread of seeing how the system failed them to where they ended up in this position, and then being able to use music as a way to help them find their voice, help them tell their story and take the blame off of themselves, but also how to show them that just speaking your story and sharing what you've been through can help the next person. That can save someone else. And that's through melody. That's even more of an earworm and can stick, you know?
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, that is so good. Thank you for sharing that. I'd love to move on now to this amazing album that you released, and it's titled Legacy. It's a critically acclaimed album that you wrote in a goal to invite listeners into your personal exploration, right, of your ancestral history, your family, and community. So this was an album that was co-produced with Grammy-nominated producer, engineer, and mixer Rachel Moore, right? And it was released in 2024?
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So like I said, absolutely loved it, love it, actively love it. Every track is a heavy hitter in its own way, full of soul and depth and an incredible range of musical textures. So tell us everything we need to know about this album.
Oh, gosh. You know, this album, I feel like, was in the works for years. It's been in the works for years. Any friend or fan that has known my musical journey my journey as a songwriter knows I've always been writing about the elders in my family. That's how I process. Again, like I said, songwriting has been my therapeutic tool. And what was really beautiful about understanding the assignment that was given to me, because this was an assignment I feel that was given to me by the ancestors to write this record, was I was writing a ballet with my friend, Larissa Maestro. She's a composer. And it was all about this woman, Lucinda Bedford, here in Nashville, who was, nobody knows her name. Nobody's really known about her. There was discrepancy on what her role was when in this very notable historical figure here in Nashville, the role that she played in his life. And it turns out Lucinda Bedford was one of the first rich philanthropist Black women in Nashville that nobody knows about. And in the research of finding her story and learning from the historians here in Nashville at the library, at the main library, on how to research and how to look through old wills, how to look through documents, how to look through deeds, even just for the name of someone, that really pulled me to want to go and look at, well, what beautiful stories am I missing in my family? Because if no one is saying her name, if one person at the ballet hadn't thought that's a story we should tell, then no one would be speaking about Lucinda Bedford, right? So who in my family, whose story don't I know? And who in my family might have been the entrepreneur? Who was the one that was paving the way, right? Of course, they all were. But in this record, because I wrote that ballet for the Nashville Ballet about Lucinda Bedford, it really encouraged me to work with the genealogist through the Museum of African American History and Culture up in Washington, D.C. They had free genealogy sessions, and she sat with me on Zoom and showed me even more how to research. And she was really impressed by all of the family history we already had documented. But I think what I needed from this was a cohesive storyline from generation to generation, because what I've witnessed as a therapist is that a lot of the things that we are all dealing with now, as you know, in our adult lives, the things that many of us are trying to heal from are traumas that our ancestors experienced. And there's a few books, some people know this book, My Grandmother's Hands, or there's another book I was reading called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, which is all about how trauma shifts the DNA, how that shifts you on a molecular level, right? And if we think about what we're carrying and working through, that's not ours. But we find ourselves working like that is what we're here to do, I find, is to right the wrongs of the previous generations. It's to end the cycles. And I wanted to find what's the thread, what's the through line that I'm seeing in my family through my own insecurities, my own fears. And maybe if I put a name to them, if I tell the stories of each individual person, it'll help me understand who I am and who I come from. So I know what power I'm walking in today. And my hope always, as I stand on stages around the country, is that it encourages other people to not only research their family tree, to understand who they come from, but understanding what was given to them that's not theirs to wrestle with, and to name that thing, to let it go, and to be the generation, to be the one to end the generational quote unquote curses, right? The first step to ending the generational curses is to say the thing out loud that we're fighting with all the time. And for some people, that's alcoholism. For some people, it's addiction. For some people, it's financial insecurities. For me, I always speak, of course, I was raised by two people that were brought up in the deep South in South Carolina in the 50s and 60s. And I was taught is keep your head down, keep your mouth shut, don't draw any attention to yourself. So the work that I do to undo that is standing on stages every night on a microphone, as shy as I am, right? So yes, legacy at face value it's a historical album about my family's history, but really what it really is a call to action for my audiences to look at where they've come from and look at even who their chosen family is and what are the strengths we can pull from that and what are the things we let go of and lay down and don't take into the next generation.
That
Longest
is
answer.
heavy. No, it was so succinct. And oh man, again, it's a whole separate episode could be featured on this, right? There is so much that's given to us that's not ours. And I have done work in this area as well. And thumbnail sketch, I did this family constellation thing where it's basically you do this in a group of people where everybody plays a different role of your family. And then you work through the familial trauma, and you watch people act it out and as you just like watching as an observer. And I had this experience that was just so on point, but it viscerally explained to me like why I personally feel so much heaviness or shame or just insecurity about who I am, just straight out the gate, and you kind of look back, you're like, oh, like I can see the layers from generations past as to why I might feel like I have a backpack that I'm carrying around that's like 1,000 pounds. And how do I work on taking each of those rocks out of my backpack and give it back, basically. It just was such an interesting visual of how we all are that. I do believe we all come into the world perfect and beautiful, but we also come with all these generations past of lots of other stuff too that's not ours, and we're here to uncover what is, and use what we need and give back what's not, heal whatever it might be, right? So thank you for dedicating an entire album to that. Is there a song in particular? We're going to get into this later. Which song are you planning on sharing with our listeners?
The most profound for me, honestly, is Carolina. That's one I've been playing on stage a lot. Because it sounds at face value like a really dope blues song featuring Keb Mo and amazing background vocals and all that. But in truth, what Carolina is, me wrestling with how do you honor a place that also played a role in your trauma as a child? Like South Carolina was a place that I couldn't wait to leave, because of the fact that, yes, I was called racial slurs from elementary school all the way through high school in the halls, witnessing KKK marches, having to be protected at football games and the marching band because the parents knew there were going to be racists there at this game. So they made sure to protect all of us Black and brown kids. And I could not wait to leave South Carolina. And I say this to my audiences. I know now 20 something years later, you do have to leave the place to go grow. You have to leave the place that you were raised in order to go learn some lessons, witness the way other communities work, see some stuff, get some healing in so that you can take it back to the community that you grew up in to be a part in its healing. Or if you never want to go back there, at least play a part in actively healing other communities that you are in so that not another child has to be harmed in that way that you were, right? Trying to fix the wrongs of a place. That's what Carolina's all about.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing about legacy. And I am so eager to have listeners just listen straight through. It's just such a powerful testimony to healing and growth and the grit and determination that's required to do the work that you're doing. And I hope it inspires everyone to do the work for themselves, right? Like, as you said, it's really about us doing the work so that we can heal the world. You know, I think we have a choice in life to let the hardships that we face either shape us for the better and overcome them and heal them and transform them or not. But it's really inspiring to hear the work that you're doing. So thank you so much. And tell me about your song. Is it this combination of what you're doing with folks in jail cells and in like hospitals?
Yeah.
Say more.
Yeah, your song honestly came about in 2020 when we were all pulled from the road as artists. And then what is your purpose when you've lost the vehicle that you do your work in, right? So I reached out to my fans, said, who's struggling? Let's write about it. And then we'll just meet on Zoom writing with fans of mine. And that's grown now to where we just trained 12 new songwriting partners. The whole point is we're not trying to write a hit song. The purpose of your song is to heal and connect communities. When I would, as a touring artist, I show up in a town, I walk around and get a cup of coffee or dinner, and I see one demographic of people, but then I go to stand on stages to perform, and I'm looking at a completely different demographic than who is actually in the community, right? And so I was wondering, how do you bridge the gap, and how do we keep these performing arts spaces relevant, and how do we keep them full and let the community know that these community spaces, these performing arts spaces belong to you, the community, everyone. So I do therapeutic songwriting with anyone who wants to explore what it's like to find your voice and to find your story. So we do songwriting, therapeutic songwriting, not hit songwriting, therapeutic songwriting with women and men in recovery. We work with youth, a lot of youth programs, and that's your typical youth, your atypical youth, your youth that are experiencing homelessness. We work with folks that are incarcerated. We work with elders who might be in memory care, helping them find their legacy and their story and writing songs with their families. Because what a beautiful gift to have, a song that you've written not only about your elder, but with your elder that will live on past, their existence here on this earth. Your song is honestly, it starts with journaling, and that's where we get the melody. That's where we get the lyrics, is through the person's words. As a songwriter, I'm not making up new words. I'm literally taking what this participant has written in their journal, and we're turning those into lyrics. And honestly, the empowerment that we get to see from those songs is beautiful. And the way that these organizations are using the songs to help make the community aware of that they exist in that community, it's really beautiful. Like a song can go so far, and a song also tells a story faster than clearly me speaking, right? But also I realize there's an empowerment to having the microphone. And when I am able to invite a community organization to stand on a microphone in their own community to tell their story in their words, so that that connection can continue long after I've left and moved on to the next town, then that is like all I want to do is give people the microphone and use their own words to make a melody that can last forever and go out into the ether.
Yes. Isn't that the thing about sound waves, right? Is that they never stop.
They never stop. Yes, they never stop. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And I say this even now to songwriters that get like, there's so much music out here and you can feel like you get lost. But we make the music because we have to, and understanding that the songs might not find people right now, but they will find them eventually. And the lessons will find people eventually. And we can always be discovered, but it's just a matter of, are we okay with who's discovering us? And I want people who need healing to discover my music. I don't care when they do, just find it.
Amen. Yes. Is there one participant in your song, like top of mind, that story was particularly inspiring to hear them share through song?
Well, yeah. I would consider this person the first version of what I saw that your song could be. And this was a woman who was in my songwriting class when she was experiencing incarceration. Her name is Whitney Martinez, and I can say her name. She is very verbal about her experiences. But Whitney was in my songwriting class when she was incarcerated, and through my songwriting class, she saw how important it is to journal, and she started writing poetry. And then when she was in 2020 during pandemic, she was released on parole and reached out to me and was just like, "Hey, I've continued on the writing journey, and I think these poems are actually songs. Can you help me turn them into songs?" I had nothing better to do. So basically for a full year, Whitney and I met over Zoom, and we turned her poems into lyrics and put melody to them. And
Wow.
she wrote a whole album. And then I encouraged her, right? Hey, what if we went into the studio to record these? She wanted to make this because she saw how much the melody that we wrote while she was incarcerated that still sat with her, and she was still singing it. She's like, I want to do that for other women that might end up in a situation like me. I never thought I would be someone that was serving time. So Whitney took all of her stories, all of her poems that she had written while she was experiencing incarceration, and we turned those into full-on songs, took Whitney into the studio where the therapy continued to happen. Because then in the vocal booth, she's on a microphone hearing herself through her ears and hearing herself tell her story and hearing how much delivery matters, and then being able to take control and ask for what she wants in the studio, turn my voice up, go back, just as a woman to feel empowered to say, I want to do that again, or to say, no, I don't like how that sounded. That's huge, right? And that not only inspired Whitney to record a full album with a full band of her own songs, but also she wrote a book. And the album is called 1023. And the book is called 1023. And it's all her testimony. And it's all of her experiences with addiction and with what happened to put her in jail, and then her healing journey with her children and her husband. And it's her testimony. And I've seen her feel so empowered to go and do speaking engagements. She started her own business. Felt so empowered to write to the judge to ask for permissions that she didn't feel like she could ask for before, because of the fact she's like, it started with a song and knowing that my story could help someone else.
Wow. That's powerful work. So 1023, is that something that people can find?
It is, yeah. It's on all the streaming platforms. And yeah, Whitney Martinez is her name.
The power of music is just so next level.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow. Well, this podcast is a space for musicians and creatives of all backgrounds and genres to explore the real stories behind the art, much like you just talked about. And as a teaching and performing musician myself, I know the courage that it takes to step on stage and share your original work. And, we go out and perform and, the spotlight's on us, but we don't really get so much of an opportunity to talk about the challenges or the breakthroughs or the personal journey that fuels the music. You shared a little bit about that, and I just wanted to hear again, or maybe whatever comes to mind, about your honest inner battles, moments of growth or wisdom you've gathered as a performing artist yourself.
Yeah, I was a very shy child. I'm still pretty shy. I'm an introvert. So standing on stage is kind of like is not what my family expected me to do. And the way that I've had to get over that and had to get over that imposter syndrome, to get over that fear of taking up space, right? I just had to look at my audiences like, these are clients. Everybody needs therapy, right? But then also I say a prayer to myself backstage. Like I always say a little prayer, like, God, get me out of the way. May whatever message the audience needs to hear, may they hear it. And if I am to receive something from the audience, may I receive it. But get me and my ego out of the way. I want to be as open of a channel between the higher power and the audience so that I am not blocking a message that someone needs to receive. And that's really helped me in taking up space on a stage. It's really helped me in finding the story and the thread. I'm not your typical singer-songwriter that just gets up there and plays a song. Like I have a thread that I'm trying to share. What's the story I'm sharing from song 1 to the very last song, right? And so I think between me saying a prayer to get me out of the way, also knowing what my purpose is and what my mission is as an artist. So I think it was like 2017, I sat down and really needed a mission statement because I found myself getting pulled between, am I a music therapist? Am I a songwriter? Which one am I? And felt like I couldn't be both. And so having this mission statement that helps me stay in line and aligned with the purpose, that has helped me stay on the path. Stop me from people that are like, you should be on The Voice. The Voice doesn't serve my mission. You should be playing blah, blah, blah. That doesn't serve my mission. So my personal mission is to be a voice and a vessel for those who feel lost, forgotten, silenced, who are hurting. So whenever I am asked to perform anywhere, does this help me be a voice and a vessel for someone who feels lost, forgotten, silenced, or hurting? And that's helped me be very clear as an artist as to like who I am, what music I'm writing, what is it that I'm saying with my mouth, how am I walking into spaces when I'm loading into a venue, when I'm meeting my audiences? Am I still holding space to be a voice and a vessel? The work that we do as artists is bigger than the music. We are literally channeling and connecting people to an unseen power that exists in melody and in sound. And the fact that we get to do that, what a blessing. The fact that we get to be the vessel that these sounds and stories can come from, that's a blessing. The moment that I start to feel exhausted, the moment that I can't find the joy and I can't connect to the mission, that's when I know I need to take a break. I need to step back and realign.
That's huge, Kyshona. That is such a powerful reminder to get the ego out of the way and align with your mission. And it's so interesting. And I know that people have different definitions of ego, right? But the way that I kind of see it crop up in my life is comparison to others, feeling like I'm the best or I'm the worst, feeling like I'm never enough, or people should be so grateful. It's like, it's so interesting to see how like the ego kind of pops up in these really insidious ways. And in a lot of ways, it pops up in like a negative way, right? Where it's like, oh my God, I'm so terrible, or like, I'm so whatever negative, insert whatever negative thought it is. And I don't even want to say it because it's just like bad juju, but we all know those crazy negative thoughts that swirl around in our brains. And I define that very much as the ego as well, that it speaks in these extremes. And people could call it the ego, the inner critic, whatever, but it's like these extreme statements about who you are. And if you can just remove that, right, like you were saying, and be that vessel for that higher power, for that higher source, for that higher vision, and then really being clear about what your mission is. That is brilliant and something I've never really put into words in that way, especially when it comes to performing. But when you really align with the mission behind your performance you're about to step on stage for, and the musicians you're playing with, and the music you're performing, and what you want to give the audience and receive from them, that just flips the script entirely. And I just love that so much. And I'm going to use that because, a lot of these episodes cover what are some tools to help the crap get out of the way so we can be the best versions of ourselves, right? Because we all have such beautiful stories, and I believe such beautiful creative musical voices to share. And they're all going to sound different, and it doesn't need to be a particular level or a genre or anything to be valid and need to be heard, right? But so many
Mm-hmm.
people walk away from their craft because really, I think we're not clear on our mission, and we're not
Yeah.
aware that the things that hold us back aren't actually even us. Kind of back to what you were
Yeah.
saying about, like, ancestral
Allowing
wounding.
yourself to be pulled and tugged in so many directions on who other people think you should be as an artist is like, I think, the hardest thing. I'm sure everyone has had this experience as a touring artist. You get off stage and you're like, that audience was not feeling this. This was a horrible show. Oh my gosh. That's like one way the ego shows up. But if one person comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, this one song, this touched me, then guess what? I served the mission, which means that was a successful show.
Amen.
Even if only
Yeah.
one person says that I connected with this, then that meant I was a voice in a vessel, you know?
What you said was brilliant. Yeah. Being a voice in a vessel and being like that light to one person, or that you touched one person, right? I think we get so confused about being famous versus being known, and what's our actual priority, and that being popular and being a hero are totally different. And being a hero means you're showing up for people and you're putting your best self forwards to help others, right? Oftentimes, there's that cliche of the unsung hero. It's because that's not what being a hero is, right? It's like the hero is here to do the work, and to do the work, and whether that's for one person or millions of people. And being popular that's a different endeavor. And I don't think that they're mutually exclusive, but they're not the same. And I think that when you talk about like having a mission and a voice and a vision and a purpose behind what you're doing, you automatically fall into that I'm here to give and to serve. And maybe hero is too like self-important of a word, but like I think we all understand what I'm talking about, that like, there is so much to be said for somebody who wants to do good in the world and isn't necessarily needing that external validation. So I just think for me, clarifying these things has helped so much, and hearing you say them is so helpful for me. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, girl. So I only have a couple more questions before we wrap up here. So you chose to share Carolina, which is just a really deep, insightful song from your album Legacy. And I would love for you to just share the inspiration behind this piece and why you chose to share it on this episode today.
Yeah. The first lyrics in it is, I can't separate the wonder from the why. The dying tree I used to climb still has blood on the vines. Like, there was this tree in my front yard that I used to like lay in that thing and swing from it. Oh, I love that tree. It was like shaped kind of like two hands, and I could sit in the midst of it, but understanding the symbolism of these trees, and especially in South Carolina, in the deep South, and how much harm the people that have planted those trees even caused to my people, right? And so Carolina, I wrote it with Brittany Spencer, who's a country artist. And the first version of the song that we wrote was a beautiful ballad. Like, I can't separate the wonder from the why. It was this pining, like yearning song. And I was like, I want it to fit the record, but it's too sweet. And I don't feel sweet about South Carolina. I'm a little angry about it. I'm a little bit pining. I still want this connection, because I would not be who I am if it had not been for South Carolina's hard lessons, right? But I also am very proud to be a South Carolinian, because there is a rich culture there. And so this song is a combination of that. Not only, as far as the lyrics are concerned, am I talking about this tug of war that that I've been having with how to honor a place that was hurtful to me, but also the legacy of the music my dad raised me on is literally in this album. Keb Mo is someone my dad introduced me to, his music. And it's like a game my dad and I used to play of sending YouTube videos back and forth, of listen to this guitar player. No, listen to this one. And I've opened for Keb Mo before in the past, and I invited my dad to come to that show, and he was awestruck. It was precious. And so to ask Keb to join me to be featured on this song about this place that has all the culture that has influenced my songwriting and influenced my sound. That's one thing. But then also we recorded this album in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was a room full of elder men that had all played on the hits that my dad had been playing, like Al Green, Ann Peoples, Otis Clay, like all these albums that I was raised on, these men that are on the record played on those. So sonically, instrumentation wise, there's a legacy as far as like what music I was introduced to and what sounds and the humans that gave those sounds. All of that is in this album and on that song specifically. And it's funny, I never thought it would be the one that people would be drawn to, but I mean, it got radio play, but also it's been amazing to hear how many people really connect with that song. And I'm grateful.
It's the power of using your voice and being in alignment with your mission and your vision. And that's the fruit of it all, is to get that kind of response in such a genuine way. So it makes total sense why people connect so deeply with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think one of my favorite moments with this, making of the Legacy album, recording Carolina and, being in Kebmo's studio in his home in Nashville, he said to me when we were leaving that day, when he laid down his tracks, he said to me, I really hope this helps you get the song out there, because he understood the power of his name. He understood the power of his talents. And that to me is a legacy. When you understand the power you have, when you understand the gifts you have, and how just even lending your voice, your musical voice, your literal voice to someone else's story, how that can just lift someone a little bit, like that meant a lot. And it's had me thinking even more like, yeah, how can I still serve legacy, my own personal legacy, that isn't based around financial things, land, blah, blah, right? It's all about how do we treat others? How do we use the gifts that we have to help support other people? So there's a whole lesson in legacy just in the making of it.
Yes. Oh, it's so good. It's so inspiring to hear. Yeah. And Kebmo is so phenomenal. I love his work. He's just so brilliant. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Shout out, massive shout out to Kebmo. Been listening to his music for a long time. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. So last but not least, I'm just curious if you have any insight or wisdom that you would offer to musicians out there, anything that maybe you feel like you would need to hear had you been the one listening to your episode. Any insights, wisdom, inspiration that you can think of that maybe people might need to hear today?
There's been this whole conversation happening with the rise of artificial intelligence in relation to music and what we're creating, and how many artists are terrified that, we're losing jobs because of it. Licensing jobs, music that we write for TV and film. And I'm hearing a lot of my artist friends here in Nashville contemplating hanging up their hats and coming off the road, but nobody has said they'll stop writing, right? And something that I would love to impart on any other artist out there that's considering stopping being an artist, I would say, what's another way you can use your gifts to help? Like finding another way to take all the skills that you've learned and how to adapt between different environments on a daily basis, right? What can you do with your art? What are other ways you can use your art that you can only do because of the human experience, right? We can all diversify the gifts we've been given, but we have to think bigger than what they've told us, which is go stand on stages, go drive many hours, go put yourself in debt, right? To be seen and heard. What are other ways you can do it? And I think when you have your mission in mind, once you know your mission, it'll help you get clarity on how else you can use your music and your artistry to serve a bigger purpose.
Yeah. What can you offer to help? Like, because that's something AI can't take away, is our unique fingerprint, our unique musical fingerprint. And why we were put here is also a unique fingerprint. Only us individually can give.
And, one last shameless plug, but this is why your song is really dedicated to training songwriters on how to be a therapeutic songwriter and be trauma informed, because of the fact that we can adapt to different environments quickly. We're always looking for a story, right? And I want to empower songwriters to be able to go out and ask their community, hey, would you be interested in me coming in to write with this community of people and maybe start or play a small part in their healing journey? That's the behind the scenes work that I'm wanting to do for artists with your song, is empowering them to go into their communities, to show them what human connection can look like, what empowering people to use their voices can look like, and how a melody can really change a life. A song can change a life.
It's beautiful. I'm going to check it out. I love it. It's such important work. Thank you, Kyshona.
Thank you.
Well, this has been so soul nourishing and so insightful. Thank you so much for your time and talent and wisdom. And it's just been such a pleasure. How can people best get in touch with you and follow your work?
So I was fortunate. My aunt named me Kyshona and not Mary Jane, like my mom was going to name me. So you can go to Kyshona.com. It's KYSHONA.com. And you can sign up on the mailing list, and I do not bombard people, but you can know when I'm coming through town or what's happening. And if you're interested in working with Your Song, or if you want to donate to Your Song's mission, you can go to yoursong.org, and that is yoursong.org. And you can donate. When we do our next training for songwriters, we'll have that information there as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll be sure to put your website, Kyshona.com, and yoursong.org. Okay. Yeah. I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well. Yeah, listeners, definitely check it out. Both check out Your Song and just Kyshona's incredible tapestry of work and music. So if something in today's episode resonated with you, or you'd like more content like this, please like and subscribe to the show. It's free for you and makes a huge difference for the longevity of this podcast. Share it with somebody that you think might need to hear these words. These resources are for you, and I hope that this conversation helps you go deeper with your personal artistry and well-being, because that's what Artistry with Heart is all about. Kyshona, thank you so much for being with us here on Artistry with Heart and for sharing your wisdom with the world. That's all for now. Until next time, be you and stay inspired. And now the full version of Carolina.
Separate the wonder from the why. That dying tree I used to climb still got blood on the vine. I went searching for redemption, found what I was missing, a song. I can't help but question if we cut the ties. Am I better off without you, or is my memory alive? I've been searching for the magic. Might be where we started long ago. I don't know, but I'm headed south. Carolina, take me home. I don't care what or went wrong. Take me in, take me Meet